Big year for superheroes in the movies. First it was The Avengers, shot right here in Cleveland, some of it. And now get ready for the amazing Spider-Man. So let's take a look at the trailer, see what it looks like a little bit.
You're a wanted man, Peter Parker.
You don't believe what the police are saying, do you?
My dad has 500 officers looking for you.
500? That seems a bit excessive. You know, if you're gonna steal cars, don't dress like a car thief. You found my weakness. It's small knives. Oh, it's so simple.
There you go. Okay, this was a lot more like the comic book. You know, they had one a couple years ago, and it was like making the comic book into like a real-life hero kind of thing. This one's more like making a comic book. It's in 3D, and man, does it look good.
Yeah.
It looks fun. It, you know, for me, because I'm not a big superhero fan and that kind of thing, you know, it's a pretty good movie, but you know, it's not like, you know, Titanic or something like that to me. But if you're a fan of the movies, it is really, you know, it's a lot of fun, and the 3D is incredible. And I like talking to Emma Stone. A lot of fun. You know, she actually, the guy that plays Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield, that's her new boyfriend. That's sort of like,
real life?
That's sort of live together kind of thing. So it was sort of fun. Interesting way to do the interview because no one ever wants to talk about that.
Right.
But I did ask her during the interview, I said, because she plays his girlfriend in the movie. So I asked her, like, when you were a kid, what do you remember about that first time you brought somebody over to the house to dinner to meet Dad? And this is what she said.
It was fine. My dad's really quiet, so all of my friends were scared of him growing up, even though he's like a teddy bear. He just is like a quiet man. So I think that everyone would be like a little bit scared at first. I mean, he's so not that way. It just was, yeah, it's, oh boy.
Isn't it funny? Isn't it funny when people are quiet? You sort of read into, they imprint, you sort of read into them. You don't really understand, but you make them what you think they are.
Usually it's just that they're shy.
Yeah.
But you think like, oh, what a standoffish, or they're thinking something about me. It's really funny. Yeah. But I, in turn, became loud as hell. Unbelievable.
Loud and sassy. She was in a movie called Zombieland. I don't know if you ever saw that. Boy, that was such a fun movie, Zombieland. And then she was in The Help recently. So she does a lot of different kinds of movies. But she's really a funny person. Her mom and dad own a golf course in the Phoenix, Arizona area. So she grew up around golf courses, and she was sort of an athlete, but wanted to be in the movies and made it off to Hollywood, and of course made it happen for herself.
She seems like a nice girl.
She is.
You know?
Her dad is played by Dennis Leary, who, you know, Rescue Me, and he was a comedian. That's how he started out in the business. And he's a guy from Boston, sort of a tough kind of character, and it was fun to see him play the dad. So, of course, talking to Dennis, who is a great guy, by the way. You can just sort of tell by how his demeanor is. I asked him about when he went over to, you know, to meet his father-in-law and mother-in-law, that sort of thing. Here's what he talked about. Now, do you remember the first time you went to have dinner at your wife's home?
Yeah, they weren't real happy to see me.
What was that like?
You know, she, I suppose it's any guy, right, that comes into a girl's house. But yeah, her mother was not picturing me.
No.
It was one of those moments when the door opens and you see the mother's face fall. And so I fought an uphill battle for a long time before I actually went over my mother-in-law's heart. Rightfully so. I mean, would you want me walking in the door?
You seem like a nice guy to me, but I don't have any daughters.
Yeah, okay, so.
Yeah, I can't do that. Do you have daughters?
Yeah, I have one daughter.
How old is she?
She's almost Emma's age. She's 20.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're thinking about stuff like that a little bit, huh? I mean, like.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hey, man, listen. This movie is the first movie since my kids were small and the first Ice Age movie came out where they actually think I'm cool.
Oh, is that great?
Yeah, they want to come to the premiere. They came to the set. They hung out. So I'm riding this one. I'm getting a lot of cool points off this.
Excellent. You are a cool guy.
Oh, thanks. You heard him. You said
it. That's cool.
He really is a cool guy. And speaking of cool guys, another star in this movie, the movie's loaded with stars. Martin Sheen plays Spider-Man's, well, uncle who raises him, because Spider-Man loses his dad and he has to go live with his aunt and uncle and Martin Sheen. So he's the father figure. So it's always interesting to see Martin Sheen, who is you know, he's like the ultimate father figure, except he does have Charlie Sheen for a son.
Right.
that's sort of a funny thing. But he's a really cool, mellow guy. And so when I went in to do my interview with him, you know, we recalled the idea. He was in Cleveland recently and that sort of thing. But just see how he starts off an interview. It's sort of an odd kind of thing. Check it out. He's fun, though.
Please welcome to the first tee from Fox Cleveland, David Moss.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
I tell you, when you came through Cleveland with your son, Emilio, people had so much fun meeting you.
it was great
and
fun.
everywhere you go, you leave a wake and a trail of the nicest man in the world. The
Takes
nicest
one to
guy.
know one.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun in Cleveland. My wife grew up in Cleveland, so I'm very fond of that. I'm from Dayton.
Yeah.
Originally. My wife was actually born in Cincinnati, raised in Salyersville, Kentucky to the age of 6.
Yeah.
Then her mother took her to Cleveland, so she grew up on Euclid Avenue, went to South High School.
Oh, boy.
So, yeah, I have a deep connection to Cleveland. I'm very fond of that.
What a nice man.
He met John Glenn when he was doing his tour with his son for that last movie, and he talked to me about meeting John Glenn like for way longer than he should have talked about it, because it was
Really?
so exciting. Tell me about how John Glenn was telling how when you turn the bolts on the shuttlecraft, you know, you got to hold on because you start spinning around, and he's 70-some years old, and it's like he's like a kid still.
Isn't he the one Jimmy Malone interviewed when he came through here?
That's right,
And
yeah.
your wife
Yeah.
was shuttling him around,
Right.
and they could not stop saying
What a nice guy
enough
he is.
nice things about him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I told him that too. He goes, oh, yes, well, you know, like it takes one to know one. You know, he's that kind of guy.
Yeah.
He's a very generous man. And, okay, now, speaking of Spider-Man, if you want to see this movie, we got to wait for you to do it before it hits theaters. The screening will take place on Monday, July 2nd at Regal Richmond. It's 7 o'clock, so be caller number 8 and win a pair of tickets to the much-anticipated summer blockbuster. It opens the day before the 4th of July, and you get to see it a day early, so that is a lot of fun.
Cool.
Hey, when we return...